Foxborough's Conservation Commission meeting on April 1st, 2024 at the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, Foxborough. This meeting is broadcast live and recorded by Foxborough Cable Access. With that, I'll officially open the meeting. Do we have any public comments at this time? If not, David, you got some minutes?
No,
Nope.
I didn't finish, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, just some informal things, just to keep you updated. We have an ADA assessment for the Lane property scheduled for this Thursday at 1 p.m. That's Thursday, April 4th. A representative from the Bureau of Veterans North America has scheduled an ADA assessment for the lane. So I will meet him up there and see how that turns out. Okay. I think everyone got a notice that Friends of Sharon Conservation is having an event this Saturday. It seems to be very interesting. I plan to go. I've called in and made an appointment. Anybody want to join me?
I'm a maybe.
Okay, all right.
What is it about?
Vernal pool.
Oh, okay.
It's, I didn't read all of the details, but it's a vernal pool demonstration, not demonstration, but a talk on that.
It's a potluck, if I recall.
What's that?
It's a potluck. if
Yes,
I
it
recall.
is. It is a potluck. So. All right.
You guys want a 204 East Street? Is that what we're trying to do, 204 East Street site walk
Sure.
this Friday?
Yep.
Is everybody available?
What
What
time?
time?
I don't know.
Noon.
12:30?
Noon or later.
Okay. 12:30 is, will they give you time to get up here, John?
Yeah, 12:30 is fine.
Can we do a little bit later than that? Like 1?
One works.
Okay,
I
I'll
can
grab
be there
lunch
for 1.
beforehand.
okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Mr. Buckley, will things be ready for us?
Yep, I think they finished today.
Okay, all right, good. We'll take care of that. All right. And we got a couple of other things, but we'll do that later. Being 7:05 p.m., we have a NOI.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetland Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, April 1st, 2024, at 7:05 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, via Zoom, on a notice of intent filed by DPW Director Christopher Gallagher for the construction of a PFAS water treatment plant at 25 Pumping Station Road and Mechanic Street. Assessors map 45, parcel 1716. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of a resource area. This application is available for the public inspection in the Conservation Office at Town Hall. This notice can also be found on Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Mr. Gallagher.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'm Chris Gallagher. I'm the Director of Public Works, for anybody that's not aware. I have with me Brian, our Senior Project Manager from Ty and Bond. I'll give Brian, in a minute, the pleasure of going through the details of the application. So as the public hearing stated, we are looking to build a PFAS treatment plant. This is down at the Pumping Station Road treatment plant site. So we currently have a green sand filter plant that we finished a couple of years ago. That's been online since 2021 now. And as soon as we thought we were done cleaning the water in Foxborough, getting rid of the iron and manganese issue, the dirty water issues and calls that we we're having for decades. EPA and DEP came through and said, now you're going to do this for PFAS. So we are now in a position where our first PFAS treatment plant will be at Pullman Station Road. This is our biggest green sand filter treatment plant we have in town. It is one of 3, so the likelihood of having to continue to build 2 more of these after this one's done is on the horizon. So EPA has set, and we're waiting for it to be released, the final rule at 4 parts per trillion. A number of years ago, DEP set it at 20 parts per trillion, after EPA set it at 70 parts per trillion. So we were meeting the DEP standard, and then EPA came back around and said, now we're going to drop it from 70 to 4. So we have SRF funding secured for a $14 million loan, 0% interest loan with some debt forgiveness associated with that. And so here we are. Ty and Bond has gone through the design process, is working on the final design of the interior of the plant itself. Brian has the details on the site work, what the building looks like, what the stormwater design looks like, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian.
Question for you first, Chris. 25, 30 years ago, could you have measured this accurately, parts per trillion?
No.
Okay.
And you still
So
can't.
it could have been, it's nothing new. We've had it we could have had this for
Yeah,
day
so
one.
the PFAS chemical, it's a series of, I think they're probably up to almost 10,000 different chemicals at this point in time. They're known as forever chemicals. They don't break down by themselves. They are in everything from Gore-Tex to Teflon to microwave popcorn bags, and they're found in groundwater. Foxborough, we think, is most of Massachusetts and New England and across the country is having this issue. Foxborough has a lot of septic systems in town, which every time you throw your laundry through the washing machine, it goes into the ground in your septic system and is just leaching all of that PFAS chemicals into the ground. And then we pull it in to our groundwater wells, and it ends up in the drinking water. So these chemicals have been around for decades. Within the last 10 to 15 years, EPA has been tracking a series of 6 of them that they've been focused on. The new regulation, we cannot test to that level that they're looking for. They're basically looking for it to be 0. But we can't, there's no machine out there to test to that level at this point in time.
Okay, just, no.
Can I just ask, this site was originally under a different order conditions for your previous work. Did they file for certificate of compliance on this original work?
No, I think we talked quick about that. Something they got lost in the shuffle. So as part of this, we were going to request closing that certificate, and in order to get a new notice of intent.
Is it past
Order of
3
conditions.
3 years?
It is.
Yeah.
Brian's got that info.
So it sounds to me that you have to basically get a certificate of compliance to close out the past one, even if it is expired.
Okay.
And that's something that you're probably going to do. Is that something that you think you can do by the next meeting?
I'll have to pull it out and look at it.
How crucial is this, getting this approval this evening, potentially? Can you wait till the next meeting?
Yeah, the planning board, they haven't even done the peer review yet.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for instance, if you were to potentially close out through the certificate of compliance process by the next meeting, prior to this being on the agenda at the same time, then for instance, it could work to your favor. So I would suggest looking at that and getting that on the books to do an as-built of whatever it was done under the previous permit.
Yes, I don't think you've submitted an as-built on this at all.
No, they didn't do a request for a certificate, so, yeah.
We'll work on that.
All right.
So, good evening. I'm Brian Weiner with Ty and Bond. Thank you for the introduction, and I'm here to present the plans, site development that we're proposing as part of the project. And on the Zoom is also Isabel from our office, if there's specific questions that I might not be able to answer about details about wetlands. So this is an existing, okay, it looks like it's correct. Okay, so this is the existing conditions plan. The yellow is the 100-foot buffer zone. The orange line is the 25-foot no disturb. And on the next slide, so this, what we're intending to show is this, the same wetlands, but with all the flags overlaid on the ortho photo, just to show the existing condition. And then this will be the majority of the presentation. So this same 100-foot buffer line, same 25-foot no disturb line. So what we're proposing is a 44 by 88 building north of the existing building. And within this facility, we're planning to have GAC filters, 4 filters, equipment, electric room and a pump room. And so these filters will remove the PFAS from the well water. And the way that this works is we have the existing green sand building, we come into the new PFAS building, and then back to the existing green sand building. Pretty straightforward process for treatment that's been used widely at this point. As part of the work, there will be additional paving around the new building for access. And as part of that, we've put together a stormwater design to accommodate the change in pre-development versus post-development. And what we're proposing is we have a series of catch basins, a storm scepter, inlet, and then the stormwater gets routed into an infiltration basin. And so the outflow from the infiltration basin is, once the stormwater builds up 1.5 feet, we have a 6-inch pipe outlet, and then we also have an emergency overflow if the 100-year storm is exceeded. So I'll flip to the comparison of pre-development and post-development just to demonstrate the stormwater. So the approximate, let's go back to the last slide. So this disturbance within the 100-foot buffer, this is 6,500 square feet. The nearest point is 44 feet away from the closest wetland flag. And so I've shown 2 red arrows here. One's at 44 feet, one's at 46 feet, just to orient yourself. Again, 6,500 square feet of disturbance within the 100-foot buffer zone. The overall project footprint, inclusive of this 6,500 square feet, is approximately 30,000 square feet for the entire project. And if I show you the next couple slides, this is the pre-development subcatchment area. What we've done as part of our drainage analysis, because the way that the existing roof right here from the existing plant sheets into the boundary of the subcatchment, we've included that as part of our drainage analysis. This is the high point in the contributing watershed to where we're performing our site work. And then on the next slide, it overlays the post-development. So again, we have the same existing roof. We have our new building roof, which will be piped into the drainage system. And then we have the overland runoff, which is the remainder of the subcatchment. They're all time of concentration 5 minutes. So it doesn't matter if it's coming from the roof or from the peak air. They're all at the smallest time for the peak rate volume. And we've demonstrated that we're post-development less than pre-development for the 2-year, 10-year, 2,500-year storm in accordance with DEP stormwater management. We have groundwater recharge in the basin. We have water quality treatment through the series of catch basin, storm scepter, and basin. And we have TSS removal through the system, starting with the catch basins, the storm scepter, sediment forebay entering the basin, and then the basin itself. And one other thing to note, so we've set this up so there's a ridge line that runs through here where this is actually a high point, and we've kept our work within the lower side of that ridge point. So you can see with the basin grading, we're actually cutting into the slope, and we're not grading out beyond that ridge line, so that's keeping the site runoff contained during construction and in the future once the project's completed.
So this site's in a zone 2. Did you accommodate that? I mean, obviously, you just mentioned the storm scepter and the TSS. Just want to make sure.
So we are in a zone 2. So there's actually 3 parcels that total 68 acres. We have 2 parcels that total 48 acres where the work is. The majority of the work is on this upper parcel, which is, just to get the number right here, the majority of work is on lot 17, a small portion is on lot 16, and what we've done is our total disturbance is well under the 15%. We're at 6+%
Okay.
for the 48 acres. This taking into account the plant that's already there, our new project, as well as the access roads that go to the wells. So we're well under the threshold. It doesn't require a special permit. It's a typical site plan review at the planning board. But
So I guess my other question is, you said, I guess, Chris, you were mentioning that you're going to have more kind of these facilities in town. Is this the site that you're going to be doing them at, or are you going to have other areas in town that you're going to?
No, the other PFAS plants would have to go where the other green sand filter plants are.
Okay.
So we have one down on Lamson Road, and then there's another one down at Witch Pond, down off
Okay.
of 106. So those would be designed later at those other sites.
Okay, so as of right now, there's 3, and this is the first one, is that?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
anyone has any questions, happy to answer big picture, technical details.
Where's the outlet drain? Looks like it's next to 275, right?
Yeah, so let me zoom in a little bit. So if you get this here, so this is 275.5, the outlet on the basin, and then this is elevation 274.5. And so there's a swale that goes through here. It's
Okay.
partly natural and partly from the last project. And so we'll continue to maintain that drainage pattern that exists today. If we look back at the drainage pattern for the existing site, there's a swale that comes down, goes around the back of the building and comes down to this point here. So this is where the basinal outlet for the post-development condition, same drainage pattern, same place.
Okay.
Just to overlay the two.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we've maintained that same drainage pattern. We've kept the runoff away from the wetlands. We've maintained this area that is a low point as compared to the ridge that's over here. So the stormwater is staying on our construction side of the ridge, and we don't have to grade out any slopes towards the wetland with how we set up the grading and the site design.
So the catch basins, are they all storm scepters? Or they, because you got precast Plano catch basins in your notes here.
Yeah, so we have typical catch basins with sumps and hoods, and then the 4 catch basins are tied together, and before it goes into the, so these are your standard catch basins. They're all piped together, and then the most downstream, after they've all collect the runoff, they go through the storm scepter. So you get the first line of treatment through the catch basins, then the storm scepter before it gets into the infiltration basin.
And what are the soil conditions in that area? Is it pretty sandy and gravelly?
Yeah, so it's very, very sandy and gravelly, and so as part of our design, we were conservative. We didn't use the highest infiltration rate of the 8.27. We used 2.41, assuming, sort of worst case and saturated ground. But it's good, well-draining soils.
Construction schedule, Chris, because of potential runoff and because it's close to the reservoir, and then you get the turtles.
So we would be looking to have this out to bid by the end of the fiscal year. So we have a contract in hand by June 30th with the intention of, starting construction sometime in the new fiscal year. So could be July, August when we get this underway. And it's probably going to take us, 12 to 18 months to, finish out this project. So it's about a year and a half due to all this work.
Will you build that basin first and then seed it? I didn't look at the details. I'm just wondering, what you're seeding it with and when you plan to build that, because you might want to direct some of your runoff with these 2-inch rain snows we're getting.
Yeah, so sequence of construction, yes, we would build the basin first. It's loam and seed, so most likely, not to control contractor means and methods, but they'd keep the bottom of the basin a little bit high during construction, and then as they approach the end of construction, they could dig out the bottom and get to the final grades. And we were planning for loam and seed for the bottom.
What about the sides and the top?
Same, all loam and seed,
All loam and seed,
yes.
not a wildlife conservation mix?
We didn't, but I'll leave that open to discussion. We didn't have conservation mix.
Okay.
But if that's something we should do,
Well, that area is treed now, or brush is treed. And so then once you open up to the sun, you have invasives that will be coming back, and controlling it with well, I'm not an expert on this, but controlling it with certain plantings of the conservation plantings, especially around the edges.
okay. Yeah, we can make sure we specify the proper seed, and if that's additional info that you need, we could provide that.
How much water do you think is going to be generated there? Do you think it's going to be stagnated, or you think it's going to be dry most of the time?
We think it'll be dry most of the time,
Okay.
given the type of soil.
I mean, obviously, these 3-inch rainstorms that we get are kind of ridiculous, but, I think, just to kind of get a sense as to what kind of, it's going to be an infiltration basin, but what's the, logistics of that basin, retaining a lot of water or not?
Yeah, so we do have a pipe outlet, so the first foot and a half will be captured in the basin and
Right.
not allowed to go out, so we'd be looking at how long it would take to infiltrate that foot and a half
Right.
over sands and gravels. We feel comfortable that it would drain within the typical 72 hours in the
Right, so then, for
regulations.
instance, I'm thinking if we're gonna have a seed mixture there, we want something that's gonna be water tolerant, but also water resistant in case of that stuff. So less wetland plants, more mixed kind of vegetation in that area. So,
Agreed.
Any other questions, comments?
Seems like the bottom of the basin is going to be, looks like 3 feet higher than the water, maybe
That's-
4 feet higher than the water.
Yeah, that's about our estimate. The flood elevation is 271.4, and we're at 274. So we feel comfortable at the elevation we set it at, that we exceed the 2 feet.
Mhm.
Most of the time, the borings we did, again, it wasn't high groundwater season, but groundwater was down about 20 feet when we did the borings for the building. That was in the fall.
So basically, the roof drains are just going to go right off onto the paper into the catch basins. You're not putting them into the ground.
No, we're piping it into the same drainage system that collects the parking lot drainage.
Okay.
So it will infiltrate. It's not running off the roof. We have a flat roof. And roofs drains will be tied in and go through the same piping to the basin.
Anything else? Peter?
Nope.
Tanya? Jim?
Nope.
That's how we-
Nope.
Okay. Want to make a motion? Will you be ready up by the 29th, you think?
Let's put it on the calendar so that I
Okay.
will be ready.
Yeah. Okay.
deadline.
You will be ready. Motion to continue till the 29th.
Make that motion.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, just a quick question. Lakeview Road, there's a gate up there next to the pond.
Yes.
It appears that somebody's been going in there with some heavy equipment. Do you have any idea? I haven't let the key out. I just,
I'll have to keep an eye on it. I have not, it's not us. I haven't seen any, I know my staff's not going in and out of there.
yeah,
Seems pretty clear
Yeah.
where they're going.
yeah, it's the neighbor, but
Yep.
I just wonder how he's getting in there.
All right.
We're gonna arrange to have a lock put on that gate. I don't think there's a lock on that gate.
Oh, there isn't, okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna arrange to have a lock put on that gate.
Okay. All right,
It's on my calendar.
okay, good, thank you.
But Chris, all we have there is a conservation restriction on the strip of land that goes along the pond to the conservation land, which we own in fee. But also the town forest personnel can use that gate for work or fire purposes. So whatever solution lock-wise,
Yep.
that, they have to get a key or something like that. And it's their gate that they put up,
Okay.
so.
We'll get it done. We'll coordinate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Being 7:10 PM, we have a continuation for 157-635. Mr. Buckley.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group, and I'm here representing the applicant, Fed Corp. And what you have in front of you is a memo that I wrote to the commission, as well as a revised set of drawings, and I apologize that you only got them today. I thought they went out Friday. We finished them up Thursday, went before the planning board on Thursday night. And then when I was going through my documents today, I realized that they weren't sent out. So what the memo lays out is the changes to the drawings that were made, both requested by the Conservation Commission at the March 4th public hearing, as well as by the town's peer review consultant, Weston and Sampson. And I attached a copy of our response to Weston and Sampson, so you can see that in my opinion, the comments were relatively innocuous. And the changes that were actually gone through by the, I'm going to put it up on the board. So this is a rendering, actually, we showed you it at the last meeting. But, so the changes we've made that have to do with the commission, if you would go, one of the comments that was questioned was, I think it was Mr. Bodie, that brought up the seed mixture, and it's on sheet 7. And those are the two basins. And over on the left side, I know it's small. it talks about the mixes that we're going to be using. So on the outside of it, we're going to be using what's called the Mass Highway Department mixture for slopes and shoulders. And then on the interior side slopes, which was the question the last time, we'll be using a New England Wetland Plants Erosion Control Restoration mix for detention basins and moist sites. That's not because this basin is going to be a wet basin. It's designed to be a dry basin. But it will get inundated when it rains out, and it will drain out within 72 hours, which is the standard. It's actually going to drain out much faster than that. So that was one of the comments that was made. And then the other comment that was made, that again, that falls within the buffer zone, if you look up here on my drawing, this basin here, right in this area, has a 3-to-1 slope, which means 3 feet over, 1 foot up. And before it was steeper than that. So the consultant made the point, you should make it less steep. And actually, it's a condition of the subdivision regs. So we made that a little less steep. And that would be on sheet 3 of the plan that you have in front of you. So actually, if you look at it, you can see that, that slope has come up a little bit closer to the dwelling than the one that's shown up here on the screen. And then the remainder of the comments, or most of the comments had to do with giving the consultant more data. How did you calculate the riprap outfalls to account for the velocity? One of the things we did do is in the cul-de-sac, we moved some of the structures around. They had a good point about how the manholes were configured. So we moved some of the manholes around, but again, they're about 200 feet away from the wetlands, and it doesn't impact any of the stormwater. And as I've previously mentioned, we previously mentioned at the last meeting, we show these buildings just because we're just showing them. These are not the houses. I can guarantee these aren't the houses that are going to go there. We don't know what they're going to look like. We're actually working on some right now, and we have to come back before the commission on every single lot. So every single lot will be filing a notice of intent with the commission for each of these lots, because even if the homes are out front and outside the buffer zone, like for example, lot 4, the first one on the right, we're not going to be anywhere near the buffer, but all of these lots are going to want docks. So if for no other reason, we'll be before the commission for docks for each of the individual lots. So that concludes my presentation. I think I mentioned, I don't know if I did mention, the planning board did close the public hearing. We do not have a letter from Weston and Sampson saying that they're good to go. But the planning board did close the public hearing and voted to approve it, subject to receiving the letter, which we expect in the next, hopefully this week.
This is a crazy question maybe, but any thoughts of combining, say, lot 4 and 3 with a common dock, and same way on the other side?
I'm guessing no.
Okay.
And, these are going to be, like all the houses nowadays in town, these are going to be, $1.5 million, $2 million houses, and I'm sure Joe homeowner is going to want his own little dock.
It just appears that at the lot lines, it would be a convenient spot, so food for thought.
I will definitely mention that.
John, you happy with it, or?
They're gonna come back in front of us for each separate
Yeah.
lot with their own individual notice of intent. Obviously, I don't have an idea as to kind of what the access route's going to be for them accessing the waterfront, but if that's something that the commission feels comfortable with, not, making it known. Obviously, if we were to issue a order, we would basically call out saying that these individual house lots would need to come back for their own individual notice of intents in the order. So it's just the access route, kind of similar to what we had already previously for a couple permits ago. Same kind of thing. The dock, kind of what it's made out of, where it's going to be stored, kind of whole thing comes into that. And I don't know what the grades are. Are there steep grades going down to the water there?
On lots 1 and 3 going down, they are, and then when you get down there, it's all right. Lots 3 and 4, sorry, 1 and 3, and then 3 and 4 are pretty flat.
So there might be the need to have some sort of, prefab construction, boardwalks going down to the water, if that was something that they would want to do. But then also, how's that dock going to be maintained and managed for seasonal use? Just trying to think off the books. Like you said, the property lines, they could be restrictions with gaining access at certain locations. So that should probably be either field investigated or just reviewed. But other than that, stormwater was handled by the planning board, so I don't see any issues with the roadway. I think there was concerns of the water going down the street, but I think that has all been addressed.
We doubled up the catch basin grades down at the entrance to make sure we captured it.
Yeah. So as I look at this from a top-down perspective, I don't see anything that is
Okay.
outlining, unless any of them other members have any questions or concerns.
You know, what we can do if you want, and those are good points, John, when we get to that point, the placement of the docks, we can go out and take a look. We could take a walk. It's such a lot of area there that,
Because you have to set some bounds out there, right, or some markers, some field
Yeah.
markers?
yeah, we're gonna set, each of the corners will have some type of marker.
So when they
on it.
have it flagged, or if it's not flagged already, that would probably be the time to do it.
Yeah, I'll coordinate that once we get to that, or I'll have Cam coordinate it.
Anything else from the board?
I was wondering if we should have a general condition in there about if someone does buy a lot and they haven't started building down there and they try to access the water, that cannot be allowed until they file a notice of intent and receive order of conditions and record it as the proper access point, the construction method, management.
You mean somebody buying a lot and then just using it to get access with a kayak or
Yep.
something?
Just go cutting a little path down there.
Well, I mean, regardless of that, I mean, this is notice of intents for the roadway.
Yeah.
So that's what they're permitted to do under this permit. The next thing, if someone buys a lot and does something that they're not allowed to do, then for instance, enforcement from
Right.
the Conservation Commission would be mandatory, and mitigation would be required. So just like any other typical kind of scenario, whether it would be a house that was permitted or whatnot, or going to be permitted, or if somebody just buys the lot and wants to do something else with it. So I think, case in point is that this is for the roadway. They're gonna come back with another permit for the houses. I think we'll be okay. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Good. Someone want to make a motion to close the hearing?
I make a suggestion. Being that this is a larger project, I think we should also consider, as part of the hearing and then the order of conditions, a pre-construction meeting requirements, not only with the Conservation Commission, Planning Board, if applicable, building inspector, police department, developer, site engineer, site contractor, that this is done beforehand, even before they start putting erosion controls out there, and that everybody has the right permits in hand on the site, or with the, the site developer in the subs, so they can't come back and say that they weren't aware of what can be done, or they didn't have the plans.
Good idea.
Is that in the approval anyways?
I'm sorry?
Is that gonna be in the approval from planning board anyways?
Yes,
Yeah.
Generally does that.
but I think
That's fine with me.
it's a great idea.
Yeah. I mean, the only issue with that is holding a pre-construction with all those people, I'm gonna tell you right now, is very difficult to do.
Only if it's applicable. You don't have the,
I mean, this is a 4-lot subdivision. You know, I consider this a small project from my perspective. But, you know, others may disagree. But for instance, this project obviously is gonna have a SWIP, and it's gonna basically require inspections, so the contractor needs to basically be aware of all the SWIP requirements. Or whoever's gonna be doing the SWIP inspections, they have to be at a pre-construction meeting. The tree clear guys need to be at the pre-construction meeting. The engineer needs to be at the pre-construction meeting, and then the owner can be at the pre-construction meeting if they want to be. And then, for instance, the person that's issuing the permit is typically, you know, the agent or whoever's the person that's working with it. And if any other members have the availability to be on site, they can attend. But for this permit alone, it's a conservation permit. It's not a building permit. It's not a planning permit. It's not a Board of Health permit. I don't go on inspections for Board of Health. I don't go on inspections for building. I don't go on inspections for planning. So to get everybody involved, I think is a little bit redundant, if you want my opinion. I think that it's important that everybody with their rights and kind of their kind of authority is to be able to handle the permits the way that they're supposed to, so.
In this particular case, as John just said, it's gonna be planning and conservation, because we're not dealing with anything to do with the Board of Health. And if the police, I don't know why the police want to come, but if they wanted to come, they could come.
I mean, police and fire, Board of Health, they all submit comments to planning board.
Yeah, they're done until septics.
We can invite everybody, and who comes, comes. I mean, it doesn't matter. But I know who's gonna show. It's gonna be conservation, planning won't be there. And then the contractor, developer, engineer. Yep.
Okay.
It's a good
just
condition.
throwing it out there.
Yeah, put it.
Like I said, if applicable,
It's a
so.
small, it's a small project, so.
It's a small road, it's a narrow road, too.
All right, again, somebody want to make a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close DEP 157635.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I do have a signature page, because our next meeting is gonna be past the 21 days.
Okay.
So John will work on conditions, and we'll get it all buttoned up before that, but you guys need to sign it tonight, unless you wanna come to the office and sign it.
Someone want to make a motion to sign the signature page for the order of conditions?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Mr. Buckley, while we have you here, can you give me an update on Goodwin Drive, please?
I can. I did a site walk last week. I can't remember which day it is, but did a site walk and looked at the behind number 18 Goodwin Drive, and there was a blowout through the siltation basin, significant blowout through that area. I talked to Mr. Bonvy, who is the overall developer, although not the owner of 18 Goodwood Drive. And I've also talked to the owner of 18 Goodwin Drive. And tentatively, because we haven't got everybody together, including, the commission or John, Mr. Bonvy has stated that he will go in and clean that up himself with no, it'll be by hand. There will not be any no mechanical equipment at all down there, just guys with shovels rakes, wheelbarrows, clean that area up. And then he's also gonna build the decking that he walked with some of the commission members a couple of weeks ago. So he wants to do that all in the same time period. He wants to just get it done. And then the other thing that he's going to do is he's going to go up onto, I forget which road it is. I think it's Goodwin, 18 Goodwin. He's gonna go up on Goodwin and put some curbing in up there to make sure that no water comes down from the road. All those catch basins up there have silt sacks. So I went up there and talked to him about it. We're gonna open up those catch basins, and we're gonna put some silt socks around it to capture the runoff and get it into the catch basins, and put it into our stormwater basins, which is not usually a good thing, but all of those stormwater basins are high. So they weren't scraped down to the final grade. They were left up because we knew we were gonna have to go in there and do it. So we think that is going to alleviate any runoff coming in off the street onto that lot. And then I talked to the Simonses, who are the owners of the property, and we talked about what they need to do, and that once this is cleaned up, if there's any further blowout or anything through that area, it is their responsibility. Mr. Bonvy is not saying that he's responsible for it. He says that he does not accept that if that's was said, but he's gonna clean it up. You know, what we say at my company is, it might not be our fault, but it's our problem. So he's making it his problem and he's going to fix it. But if it happens again, it's his opinion that it's not going to be due to anything that can be even remotely blamed on anything going on up the road, and it will be up to the owners of 18 to fix. And I talked to them about that today, and they said yes. And I'm speaking for people, which I hate to do. So what I'd like to do, if it's possible on Friday, if you have time, I'd like to get Mr. Bonvy, the Simons, and John, or members, and together either by a Zoom or face-to-face, it doesn't matter to me, although I don't see any reason we need to go walk that again. Just everybody understands what we're going to do. You know, it's just me kind of talking to you, talking to this person, talking to that person. Just get everybody on a Zoom call or face-to-face somewhere and say, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do it, this is when we're gonna do it. Are there any questions?
Can we do it after our site walk at East Street?
You tell me however you wanna do it, we'll make it
the time,
happen.
John?
Yeah, so if we're meeting out at 1 o'clock at East Street, then I would suggest, I don't think East Street's gonna take more than half an hour, but I would say 1:40.
It might take a little bit longer.
Think so? Okay.
2,
Let's say 2 then.
Okay.
Okay, around 2-ish.
All right.
and do you wanna do it back here? How do you wanna do, where do you wanna do it?
We can, I don't know, you want to see this site at Goodwin again, John?
I think things always work best if we see it on the site, but I think
Okay.
it's probably
Okay.
the best
Okay.
idea.
Okay, so 2 o'clock at the site, Friday.
And that's invitation for all members to come too, if they want to?
Of course.
Okay.
I know
Wear-
he wants.
wear your boots.
Mr. Bonvy wants
Wear your
that.
muddy boots. We get 6 inches of rain in the last week.
And we got
Friday
more
to
coming.
Friday to Friday,
Yeah,
And we get
and we
more
got
on
more
Wednesday,
coming
right?
this week,
yeah.
so.
I was with I was with planning the other night, and because I knew it was gonna come up. So everybody's, and this isn't just Foxborough, Sharon, Rentham, places I'm working, everybody shows up, meaning neighbors, show up and talk about how everything's flooded, and they show up with pictures, and it's like, okay. So I just, for the heck of it, I just ran the numbers, and Foxborough has about runs 44 inches of rain in an average year. And from March to March, we've had about 50% more than that. And in the last 3 months, we've had 50% more than that, following that average, and that was before the rain last week, last Thursday. So it's just been crazy. It's not an excuse, but, we don't design these systems to take 4 inches of rain. They're designed for half an inch, which is the normal rainstorm we get around here.
Although you might have to start just
I know
designing
it.
for
There's
more
a new
inches
normal
at a
coming,
time.
yeah,
Right.
right?
Yeah, the climate resiliency, WPA. We're going to talk
That's-
about
you're
that
right.
later.
I mean, I thought last summer was bad, and then the fall was bad, and then the winter's bad, and now hasn't let up at all.
Well, just think it's a lot worse the further south you go. I'm just saying from experience.
Right. Okay.
You want to do the Panas Road, since it's here?
Oh, yes, yes, you're right. Thank you, Diana. A request for a partial certificate of compliance.
So let me put this up on Mr. Chairman again.
I'm not sure how legally that's going to work, but I'm sure your lawyers have figured it out. Separating out. Now, did that lot get divided?
Yes. So you have this in your package. I submitted a cover letter and a request for a certificate of compliance for this. Let me, get my other folder. So this is a request for a partial certificate of compliance, which, as the members know, I'll give you some history. Mr. Bodie knows the history. It was partial certificates of compliance were always issued by the commission forever. When Jane came in, Jane didn't think it was a good idea to do those. And so the commission stopped issuing them. It's fine. And, but what I have this evening, and I hope you'll consider, is I have a site that is, I think, unique, and we're trying to move things forward up here on Panas Road. So if you look at the memo I wrote to you, this is 35 and 45 Panas Road. And there's actually 2 buildings. And so this building was built, this is 45, this is 35, and actually 35 is twice as big as what's there now. If you go up there now, you'll see basically half of it is built. And what they've done is all the pavement is built as I'm kind of laying it out here. Here, goes around the building, it goes down here, 45. You can see the wetlands surround it. This was permitted back in 2015. This was the Panagopolises, Nick and Dimitri, and they kept up with it, with the orders, etc. And then it was purchased by another entity a couple of years ago. I think it was either just about right around when Nick passed away. And unfortunately, they didn't either. I don't know how it happened, and neither do they. How did they not know that there was an open order of conditions on this lot? And I'm giving you some history. So and I don't know if you recall, but this is Perry Drive up here where my hand is. This is 7 Perry Drive. Last fall, the commission issued an order of conditions for this little factory, is what it is, to put an addition on the back. And this piece of land, which goes with 35 Panas Road, was going to be, they had an agreement to sell that little piece to 7 Perry so they can do it. Okay, so we went in, we did our we did our site plan approval, we got our order conditions from the commission. And then when they went to do the title, they find that there is an open order of conditions. So the buyer's attorney, I think very fairly said, look, we're not going to buy this land with an open order of conditions And even though the people at 35 Panas said, look, we're going to do it, we're going to fix it, the attorney for 7 Perry said, yeah, but we have no way to know that. And now we own it, and if you don't fix it, we're partially on the hook for it. So what we'd like this evening is for the commission to consider issuing a partial certificate of compliance for this small piece of the land up here. And the reason I say it's unique is because you can see where the activity was permitted for 35 and 45 Panas. You can see it's surrounded by wetlands. This is on the other side of the wetland. No work was ever proposed up in that area under the 35 and 45 Panas Road. So it's an area that where no work was proposed, no work has been done. But we would like to get a certificate of compliance so that the purchase can go forward and they can expand their factory. It's actually a factory. They not manufacture metal, but they, I don't know what the correct term is. They bend it, they shape it, fabricate it, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the type of thing, that's what we're asking. There's been some questions about, what's going on 35 and 45. The order of conditions expired last July. So they've been in touch with me, and they've actually hired me and Pear Corporation to go in there, and we're going to do an investigation of what still needs to be done, because the order of condition included replication areas, and it also included a restoration area. So if you go back in your files, we were doing, I think it was weekly reports, maybe monthly, I'm not sure, of what's going on there. So the work was done, the replication area was built, the rest of the area was built, and then they sold it, and I stopped. So we need to bring Pear in now, because I guarantee that it's choked with weeds, invasive something. She's gonna go in and check it out and make sure, and tell the new owners what needs to be done in order to bring it back up to standard. And then at that point, we're gonna come to the board, for the commission, with a request for determination of applicability. I know this is a lot of information I'm throwing at you, because this piece of the property here, the building isn't built, but it's completely stripped. And it's got piles of material on it, but we can't work there anymore because our order is expired. So we need something to do, to go in there and clean it up and stabilize it and get it to the point where they're not gonna build the building right now. It's just not economically feasible. So they're gonna just stabilize it. I don't know if we're gonna put gravel down, loam and seed. I'm not sure yet. They haven't decided. But that'll be a plan we'll bring before you for a request for determination to get this place stabilized. And we'll show you the plan that we'll be executing in order to make sure that the replication and restoration areas are continuing to function the way they're supposed to.
Could you, just for the members, point out where the restoration and the,
So this is a replication area. This is a replication area. I think it's a replication area. This was all done. This was not. And the restoration area was down here along this side of 45.
Did 45 get a COC?
It was all one.
Oh, it was all one
Yeah,
permit?
because it was one parcel. We only split the parcel
Okay.
later.
So both 45 and 35 would be coming in for a full COC at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
Once we stabilize the rest of it.
Bill, is this the one that has the bridge?
yeah,
Yes,
This is a tricky one because
it is.
it's because, well, there's no activity where that
the
parcel is. I get it. Their concern is, hey, look, we're buying property, only a portion of it, but that there's an open order,
Right,
or it's expired, right?
right. It's an open expired order.
There can't be an agreement between the buyer and the owner where it's a hold harmless indemnification type agreement?
It's the lawyer's fault.
It's hard because
She,
it'd be like a carve out, you know?
It is, the planning board, the planning board signed the Form A
Yeah.
last week, so it's actually, will be a separate parcel at the time when the order and or the certificate of compliance, if you choose to issue it, and the conveyance will take place simultaneously.
Yeah.
So there'll be
And-
a new parcel that has no work ever even planned for it?
It will be the remainder of Lot 1A. So all this area, the work that's going to be done has already been permitted by the commission.
Yeah.
This piece up here is going to be the back end of that building, 7 Perry. I don't know if you remember it. So, and I was on the conference call with the attorneys for 7 Perry, the attorneys for Berkeley.
Yeah.
And the Berkeley attorneys, of course, they want to sell it. And they were like, we'll indemnify you, and the attorney for 7 Perry said no. And the 7 Perry owner is listening to his attorney. So that was already forcefully argued, and they wouldn't back down.
Is there anything there that the commission could bring enforcement for 35 at this point? I mean, couldn't you close out what was done with a partial? And then you're, oh, well,
You mean, I don't
You can
know.
technically just do
because it's expired,
you
right?
can just technically do a full COC for the whole entire
That's what I was
project
thinking, yeah.
and do an as-built survey, but what Bill's saying is that, for instance, he hasn't had time to really assess and evaluate the mitigation aspect of it because it's gonna take some time because the herbaceous vegetation is just starting to sprout through for a lot of these communities. I mean, it's March, we're heading into April, so he wants basically some time. So I guess the question is he's asking the commission if they're willing to grant a partial with the notion that he and Pear are gonna work together to get a full COC for the whole entire project this year, right?
Yes, as soon as Pear can get out there,
Right.
I don't know when that is, but it's
I mean,
shortly.
I guess the question is, issuing a partial but then having a deadline set for a full COC, that's kind of what we'd be looking at for this, right?
Well, I could come in I can give you, you could set a deadline for us to come back and report, I would imagine. I hate to speak for Lauren because she's not here, but probably, I don't know if we can make the last meeting in April, but I would say we should be able to get in May and give a report on what we've found, what we have to do.
Yeah.
And I think she's probably gonna walk it with you and say, this is my opinion, what do you think? Because we don't get to vote, so that's what I would recommend to her.
Right.
Isn't part of the mitigation a little bit further up on that lot, next to the road?
No, that's all wetlands.
No, you
It's
see that
right
blank
in it.
space up further?
What, up here?
Right?
Yeah.
That's a driveway, that's
So-
a parking lot.
How do you carve that out?
The challenge that you have with a partial is you would give a partial certification for a section of the property, which is interesting to write out. But then, for instance, when it says what conditions are still applicable, all of them are still applicable.
Right.
But it's expired at the same time, so it's like nothing's gonna come through that's new. So that's, I think the way that you said it, it's a unique circumstance, and this one, I think it's more,
What's the timing on the sale? Like
Now,
today?
Well, it's up to you guys, but they've been, so we did this last fall, and they've been dealing with it now, so they just want to go as quickly as possible. It's not like they just found this, they've been working through the process.
What about,
Another
I'd work
month.
with John on something.
I'm sorry?
I could propose something to John. We could work on, put together a draft partial.
So my partial, so I have to, the engineer has to write.
you have to write an
I
affidavit.
have to write an affidavit. My affidavit, what I was gonna write was something to the effect of, the work on this portion of the parcel was complete because there was no work proposed on this portion of the parcel. Something like that. But whatever you guys, if you wanna And I don't want to wait, but if it makes you feel comfortable,
Yeah,
it's fine.
so kind of the draft that we have here is the portion of the parcel covered by this certificate of compliance did not have any work proposed under 157-515 and is shown as parcel A on an approval not required plan of land by Bay Colony Group dated 3/11/2024 and contains 36,355 square feet. So I think if anybody's referencing that plan, they can see that on that plan of that area. I mean, no work was done out there. Obviously, the intent with 7 Perry is to expand their facility, right? Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And that's under a separate permit. Problem is they need to come back with a brand-new permit because now that lot was just created. So that makes it more difficult for them.
Well, that lot was part of the last permit.
Was it?
Yeah.
Without having an assessor parcel?
Without having a separate parcel, yes.
Yeah, so they have to basically close out their pre-existing permit. Now they have to come back with, because of that technicality.
Well, maybe we can come up with some modification.
Well, we can talk about that later, because that's a whole different new thing that needs to get, I guess, looked at too. Yeah.
Does number 45 have to have any documentation?
35 and 45 were one parcel, and they were
Right.
done under one order. So when we go for the request for certificate of compliance, that whole parcel is going to be part of it.
But right now you show it subdivided.
It is,
Recorded.
because as we sit here today, it is subdivided.
When they first came in for the initial design, it was not subdivided, is that correct?
It was the whole
Right.
parcel.
And the little house was on there too. So it's changed since, it was 2000, that was 9 years ago. Wow.
Okay, so, I guess on the books, partial certificate request, for that one lot. And then Bill's saying that, for instance, he's gonna come in with a final COC for the remainder of the project that has expired. And I guess the question is how long do you think it would take you to get that whole thing done?
Well, I think it's going to take us, I want to give Lauren the rest of the month at least
Okay.
to get in there and do what she's got to do. Then she's got to prepare a report,
Right.
talk to you. And I think we'll have a plan in May. So I think we'll have a plan in May, but I don't know how long it's going to take to execute because I don't know I don't know what it's going to,
To execute the plan.
I don't know what's on the plan.
Yeah, I guess the question is that mitigation area that was, proposed, obviously, we could always say that needs to be part of an RDA in the future, to allow for that to occur outside the realm of a closed-out permit. I was just trying to think of how to make it more streamlined. So basically, any additional work that needs to be done to create stabilization and mitigation aspects to basically complete this project would have to be covered under that RDA. So the question is that to get that final COC, you need to have filed the RDA, which means you're probably going to be looking into May to submit something. And then, obviously then for that, so I think June, potentially, earliest would be when you'd come in for a final COC? July?
Well, it would depend we do not have an as-built of what's built.
Right.
We have like pieces of as-bills for septic, foundation, stuff like that. So that could take a while. I think if you could just require me to come in May with a plan, and then we can talk about, you've got to think about the details of how you want to do it. I mean, to us, not that we don't care, but it doesn't matter to us. We've got to get the physical work finished.
Yeah, I'd say similarly to the kind of what was done for the Patriots place, that place for the fields, where you came in with an RDA afterwards. I think that's kind of something we'd be looking at to close this out. And then after that, get a final COC. So, it's going to get done this year, and I think that's something that we can require to be done. But I also think that, this is more unique. And obviously the board, I guess, has not issued partial COCs.
Not in a while, no.
Yeah,
Or we do like for when they have the whole subdivision and they're selling one lot.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're doing a master subdivision and you have a partial COC for each individual lot, yeah, I get that.
Makes sense. All right.
Well, this isn't a subdivision, it's just they're carving out a parcel. Any input from the board?
Basically, I have no objections of doing it. It's just the technicalities of how to do it and how to get it done.
Well, the next two meetings, because of holidays, town meeting, elections, so we have a meeting April 29th, and then we have a meeting May 20th.
Wow. Yeah, town election and the town meeting,
Patriots Day.
yeah.
I won't be here for the May 20th meeting. Sorry.
And after that, it's June 3rd. Then we're back more or less on that every other week thing.
Okay.
I mean, I like how you've drafted it, the way it's stated, the way you
That was all
stated it.
Diane, I'm not gonna take credit for that one.
That's
No, but
Bill's
whoever
letter.
did it. I don't want to miss anything. And it's the first I've heard of this.
And-
You guys want to just, you can
It seems pretty streamlined. We
I
can
think
just do it that way, but
And the only other thing I would put on here is that there aren't gonna be any the only ongoing conditions would be whatever perpetual conditions were with the permit, because it has expired. So, I'd have to look through the old order and just take a look to see what perpetual conditions were on, and I just put them on here.
yeah, I don't remember if there was, but there might be.
But I think the way that it's drafted like this seems adequate to be able to issue a partial COC if the board chose to do so. And knowing that, for instance, the applicant's on the hook for getting the final COC, I think that is,
leverage, yeah.
that's the leverage that you would have.
Yeah, I was with the regional property manager, it's a big company, Berkeley, so they're not gonna say I don't have any money or anything like that. They're a big, he just wants to get this off his plate. He's irritated that it's even out there. So he just kicked us loose. So I think it will get done quickly. There were some complaints, the neighbor was complaining about some trees that weren't planted. He's already got a landscaper, and they're getting that done. So my first experience with them, they're getting stuff done.
So I guess we can anticipate receiving a report from Pear at some point.
So I would say by the May, I know you won't be there, but we'll definitely coordinate it with you before that, the May 20th meeting.
No, because the first Monday's
Town meeting?
election
Oh, yeah.
and town meetings are the
Okay.
first 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then Memorial Day, so this is all. And
Okay.
we have to share with Board of Health, so we each end up with one meeting.
I will be in the communications. So, okay.
Put it this way, does anybody on the board have any objections to trying to work this out in this fashion?
I don't.
As long as we're trying to meet what the original expired order conditions were, like whatever they were trying to mitigate and do, then no, I have no objections.
Okay.
If we close this out, John, do they have to come back for 35? Being that only half of that work has been done?
So they have to come back, they have to close out the expired permit before they basically need to do any new work on the property. If they were going to do anything within 100 feet of the wetland, they would probably want to file a notice of intent. But if they're doing cleanup efforts within a pre-existing, disturbed area, or if they're doing mitigation aspects, I would say they could come in with a request for determination. But anything beyond the scope of what was previously approved, I think they're gonna have to come in with a full-blown notice of intent. But they can't do that unless they close out the previous order of conditions. So it's in their best interest, if the commission chooses to, issue this partial COC, to get the final COC, so that way it gives them the opportunity to pursue whatever they're looking to do in the future.
So therefore, the construction of the second part of that building.
That can't happen without them getting the final COC.
Right.
So I think that and all just basically gonna be the selling point to the owners.
Yeah, we'll have to come back, as I'm hearing you, that building's off the table right now until we've filed somewhat, or either request for determination or whatever is decided here to do that. So, yeah, and there's no intent to do that. Like I said, the economics, that was one of the things they talked about. They said the economics are nowhere close between what they can get, cost of construction. So it will just be stabilizing that area of the site, which is mounds of material.
So to get the final certificate, would the second mitigation restoration area have to be completed?
Whatever was previously approved within the first round of order conditions needs to be done.
Yep.
Because that one wasn't worked on, but the one on the front of the bridge was. if I recall.
I'm pretty sure, yes.
I remember the plantings and everything, we walking it, a couple
Yeah.
times, some of us.
Yeah, that's why we have to get Lauren in there. I mean, I know that next to 45 was done. I know to the left of the bridge as you come in was done. To the right, I don't think anything was done.
And that's why they have to do an RDA probably for that mitigation aspect. And maybe some stabilization, cleanup area stuff.
I'm pretty sure the invasives came back on this side too.
Yeah, they'll probably have to do that as well.
All right, anything else? All righty. You have anything else, Mr. Buckley?
Oh, no.
So does the commission want to issue this partial, or I guess that's on the table, that's the question.
Yes.
I think it's on the table, but the indication is that we'll do it.
What?
I think the indication was that we'll eventually agree to issue it.
Okay.
Right? Not tonight. Unless everybody feels comfortable doing it.
I don't know. Somebody want to make a motion, see how it flies?
I guess I feel like, Jim, if you were comfortable with the way it was written.
I'm hearing about it for the first time tonight, and I like what whether it was you or Diana, whatever, put it together. It seems very straightforward, makes sense. I mean, that's how I think you would typically, if you were gonna do a partial, issue it in that fashion. I just didn't know if there's anything else that we're missing, because this is it's complex. It's not doesn't seem as straightforward, a partial. It's not like a 26 lot subdivision where we're just issuing a partial for someone who's, selling the lot, or looking to sell the lot. You know what I mean?
Okay.
The history of this site, it's got a little bit more going on.
Look, if you want to take till the end of the month, till you guys coordinate it,
I don't want to hold you up, but if
and that's fine. I mean, if that's, it's fine. I mean, I understand. It's fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna make a stance as to whether it's something that is feasible or not feasible, but I think that the way that it currently is set up, I think it could be done if the commission chooses to do so. But I understand the stance of them not issuing partials in the past, so I'm not gonna, wanna make a determination as to whether it's a good idea or a bad idea.
And probably in a month, we'll have some more information. We'll be able to have a better handle on our timeline, or at least what needs to be done. So that's fine. So when is that?
29.
Yeah. All right. So we don't have to have a motion to kick this down the road. We just put it on the
It
review,
Put it on the agenda again.
put it on the agenda for the 29th.
Okay.
All right.
That's 35 Panas Road.
Do we need a motion to continue that, or just get?
Well, it's not a
really.
hearing, so
It's
it's
not
not a
an
continu- Yeah, that's the
Okay.
reason I use the term kick it down the road, but
It's very official sounding.
Thank you very much.
Just wanted to make sure there wasn't something more official we needed to do.
All be written in the book.
It's in the book. Thank you.
thank you. We'll see you Friday.
Yep, I'll be there.
All right. We have a mitigation update for Garrett Spillane Road.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Ryan Jordan, 16 Garrett Spillane Road. Just here to give everyone an update on kind of where I stand from the invasive removal project that we had last fall, and even, I guess, a little over the winter. Pulled out all the invasives, raspberries, buckthorn. Tried to kind of thin out some of the dewberry that was pretty thick, and put it in piles, had a company come and remove all of it. So it's basically ready to go from my standpoint. In terms of the planting, I checked with the nursery. They pretty much have everything. They were running a little short on the red oak trees, but other than that, they had everything ready to go. So just wanted to give everyone an update and just make sure I'm okay to go ahead with the plantings.
Any comments from the,
Sounds like the time to plant is right now, yeah. I mean, this is the season.
It's ready to go, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. So I sent along some photos. Didn't know if anyone had any questions or thoughts or anything for me at this point with the planting. I did have one question around the signage. I don't know where to buy, what signs I need to buy, or,
Jane used to always send out
yeah, Jane?
information
yeah.
about that.
signs.
Do you have anything in the records, Diana, for this? Okay,
I don't have access to her emails.
okay.
Bill Buckley, she worked with Bill Buckley to produce signage on all his projects.
We'll get that information to you.
Yeah,
Check
that's secondary.
Yeah.
Get the
Colony.
planting now is,
Okay,
that
so
would-
I'm okay to go ahead with the
yeah,
planting?
Blessing. Yeah.
yep.
There was a second part of this ask, and towards the end of the cul-de-sac side of the property where it's still wooded, but it's cleared, and it was previously disturbed, but we kind of ended the yard there. I was seeing if I tried to plot it out as best I could on the plan. I think it's kind of somewhat in that gray area, without having to go through the surveying process. But I was seeing if it was okay if I just put a little flat area so I could get a shed in over there.
What's the foundation of the shed?
Whatever it has to be, pretty much. I think just,
It's not gonna be slab on grade, is it?
I mean, that's what I would prefer, but I could just do sonotubes, I guess. That's fine.
How close to the wetlands do you think it's gonna be?
I think it's,
Is that on the plot that you sent, is that green line? Is that
Yes.
wetlands?
there's like a little box.
Yep, I can see the shed there.
Yeah.
And then that green or yellowish line?
I think that's the, maybe the clearing,
Okay.
where the woods are.
Oh, I see. But like, I feel like, It's too hard for me to see on this.
I think it's got to be close to 100 feet. It's like right on the, I would say it's on the border of where the 100 foot, it might even be like on the line if I were to project it.
You have to cut any trees down to put it in?
If I have to have it surveyed to be outside of the 100 foot,
No, I'm asking, do you have to cut any trees down?
oh, right now, no. But if I were to try to pull it outside, I think I would have to cut down some pretty sizable trees.
So by putting it there, you're avoiding cutting down some trees?
Yes,
So that's how I would pitch it.
okay. I was holding that in my back pocket. Thank you.
I feel like we need to see like a more detailed plan for it and where it's gonna be. I don't know, maybe I just need to see that one closer, but,
Yeah, I have it staked out. I don't know if anyone
oh, okay.
wanted to go take a look at it or not, but
That's.
When were you planning on putting the shed in?
It's been what,
Let's put the plantings in and we'll get
Yeah.
the shed secondary.
I was trying to do, if, like, I needed to bring in, like, additional plantings, like, do it all at once, but I haven't even talked to anyone getting them over, so I don't know when. I just, kind of wanted to start at least lining that up to, build out that little area, flatten it, and then have someone come in and build the shed for us.
So I guess the question is, have you talked to the building inspector so that way they know what the requirements are?
Yeah, I did. So if you keep it under 200
Square feet, yeah, that's,
don't need a permit. But I did run it through him to, there's also a paper road that runs through that somewhat undefined, but if it's going to be above the 200 square feet, you need to stay 35 feet.
zoning
And-
requirements.
Yeah, and then, whatever the other setbacks are. So there was like a really small area where I could put something bigger, but it just, it required way too much clearing. So I just want a small shed where it's already cleared.
So basically, you're putting in a small shed that doesn't meet or is not going to exceed those requirements,
That
right?
is correct.
Okay. And it's gonna be outside the 100-foot, that's what it shows on the plan right now, right?
Outside the 100 foot,
That's what you have on the plan, right?
it looks like, I honestly can't tell where, like, I don't know where the stakes are. So I don't want to say it's going to be outside, but I think
Okay.
it's within reason. I don't think it's going to be like egregiously 25 feet next to it. I think it's close to 100 feet outside, yeah.
So the question is, do you think, like, if you were gonna be pitching this to the commission, is that the work that you're proposing is gonna have minimal detrimental impacts within the buffer zone, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
You don't want to put it on the other side of the house where it's further outside the 100-foot zone. I know you don't have much,
It's so far away from the house.
yeah, I know you don't have a lot of land on that side of the house, but
No, it's pretty
it would be
tight.
definitely outside of the 100-foot zone on that side.
Yeah, that's like the only part that's like flat over there in my yard.
Yeah.
So, this way, it's kind of, it's still down, it's almost parallel with the house. So without it being like in front of the house or like next to like my neighbor or like, all the way down, it's probably the best spot that I can think of that,
I'm just concerned because it looks on here like it's all, like the entire shed is basically in the 100-foot,
it's what?
is within the 100 feet.
Yeah, I don't know, that's kind of where I think, but, if I need to move it a
It's
little
really
bit
hard to see that.
further,
It's the- I think this line is the 100 feet.
it's hard for me to tell because I
There's
think
the
that's
shed,
an
And it is kind of weird, it's hard to tell.
outdated septic
the
design that's on there. That's
goes.
kind of where I'm basing where the 100-foot is.
but it
Yeah,
looks
I'd say the shed's gonna be within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Pretty close.
Yeah. The question that I would have is that, for instance, the area that you're proposing it to be in,
Yeah.
Disturbed zone.
Is it previously disturbed that wasn't part of the mitigation aspect, or is it just previously approved for the limited lawn? I guess that's my question. Is there any way that you can move the shed to get into the lawn
I
area?
think that portion, when I had met with Jane, was approved for, if you see where the lawn ends, I think we technically could have gone a little bit further, but we ended it, and yes, it was previously disturbed. It's very lumpy, it's all kind of holes and,
So why don't we go this route?
Yeah.
Is that once all the mitigation plantings are in, we'll talk about the next phase, which is this shed. I'll come out there, meet with you, we'll look at the area that you're suggesting, and then if I think that it could go somewhere else, then we'll make that kind of
okay.
suggestion to the board as to whether it'd be a minor kind of change to the permit that you had on record, okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
John might want to add that either Rich or myself work with you, because we've been on top of this project, trying to help out ever
Okay.
since the fiasco with the previous developer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we know the area.
My
pretty well.
availabilities are Fridays, so anyone that wants to join me on Fridays, feel free to come out.
Yeah, all right.
I think we had talked about this at one point, but just wanted to prioritize the restoration, and our garage is filling up with kids' toys and junk and everything else, so I wanted to bring it up today.
So I guess this is my suggestion. Get those plants in the ground by next week, and we'll be out there to look at the week after, okay?
Okay, I can't guarantee they'll be in
No,
there
I'm
next
just,
week, but
I'm giving you incentive, all right?
yeah.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Yep. And the last thing I've got is, well, a couple of things, but order of conditions for the reservoir for the boat fishing derby. That was the bylaw only. We got the,
We just need to sign that tonight.
I think we signed it, did we not?
No,
Oh.
because I didn't know what it was gonna
Okay.
look like.
Okay,
So,
all right.
John, did some findings and some conditions, and, it ended up being 8 pages instead of.
Okay,
There were some suggestions that, of cutting versus trimming, so.
correct. And we got trimming in there,
Clear cutting.
so,
Trimming and cutting.
yes. Somebody want to make a motion to assign the order of conditions?
Can I say something?
What's that?
Could I say something?
Sure.
Thank you for the good work, John. But there seems to be some of the language in here that has nothing to do with this simple management plan on the peninsula. I'm just saying some of the language in here relative to a site contractor, stormwater pollution prevention plan. We have a good plan that shows the different areas that can be managed. And I think it's, yeah, another part is the post-construction, the issuance of final certificate of compliance. This is an ongoing maintenance. So are we going to be issuing certificate of compliance or partial every year?
So this is a local permit.
Right, this is very local, some of the
Yeah.
wording in here is just,
Yeah, we can strike, we can take your recommendations and we can strike whatever you want. Obviously, this is a unique kind of situation where this is not your typical permit. I've never dealt with a land management kind of permit before. This is unique. I actually thought that an RDA would have been sufficient, but, you know, for instance, for this notice of intent, it's more unique. So, you know, if there's, you know, certain language and stuff, I don't mind striking it from the recommendations, but, you know, obviously things get lost in translation when I'm writing these things, but typically, you know, if there's any suggestions or some kind of tailoring to meeting this unique kind of permit, I'm all for it. I mean, if there's suggestions and kind of crossing things off, then I'll take those into consideration. Diana will revise it as such. So if that's something that wants to be brought up, I don't mind, taking the criticism, so.
Bob, you and I want to work on this?
So does this have to be, does the bylaw have to be done within 21 days too?
I would
I would
assume,
think
Yeah.
so,
yeah.
So this was closed on March 18th. So today is 14 days, so 21 days would be next Monday.
Okay. What specifically, David, did you want out of there?
Well, there were references that,
Their reference, so for instance, just to, I guess, say this, is that I drafted it. I take complete ownership of it.
Okay,
So if there's any sort of criticism and stuff that somebody wants to basically state, I don't mind the criticism. It's just, if the criticism can be tailored towards resolving the issue than making more of a complication, I'd appreciate that.
yeah.
that's what I would say, I mean.
So if there's any recommendations on how you would like to have it written, please advise the commission on what needs to be changed.
Is it just stuff we need to have removed, David, do you think?
Yeah, well, like, there's a requirement in here, submit an as-built plan for every time you're going to issue this certificate of compliance. But this is a yearly thing. I mean, why are we going to issue a certificate when every single year they're going to go, we're going to allow them to perform certain management trimming? You don't need an as-built plan for that, because the areas that are going to be done are what they showed us at the
Okay.
public hearing, that plan of 700 some odd square feet areas. We got the definition that John put in there, was great. But also the limit of work, sediment controls the limit of work, they're not doing anything to disturb the sediment now, because they can't cut anything below 16 inches, if I recall, that's what you mentioned.
What if the limit of work in the areas change?
They'd have to come before us
Right.
and file to see if it's a significant change.
Or a full new, notice of intent, right?
Or is it significant? I think that's in here, that we have that discretion. If they come in and present information, whether we think it's insignificant and doesn't affect whatever was initially allowed. All the permits have that opportunity. Like, another thing is that, well, in here, there's a additional alteration prohibited. There should be no additional alterations of areas under commission jurisdiction without required review and permit. I would say no additional areas as delineated on the vegetative management plan. And then we don't need the part about landscaping, because they're not going to do landscaping, because it's already been defined. All you're doing is trimming. You're not doing any landscaping work. I just think that it should be a little more localized to the situation versus being towards a site contractor or a landscaper, or you're disturbing the soil. Limit of work, we already got we should reference in there, the limit of work is based on the plan that was submitted. We keep it nice and simple, because that plan's not gonna change. If it does, they have to come in based on,
Then I would just strike all the conditions if that's the case, and just say, see attached plan. See attached vegetative maintenance plan.
Okay, but I want to make sure that 16-inch.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is
Yeah.
strike all conditions besides that, make it as
Yeah.
simple as possible.
So the first thing is project findings, and that's where it talks about
Yeah.
the 16 inches.
So then all the special conditions
So then get rid of
afterwards,
all conditions.
you just strike them all,
Okay,
and you just get rid of them all. That's as simple as you're gonna make it.
all right.
Because then, for instance, they're responsible for making sure they carry out the vegetative maintenance per the plan.
Okay.
I was trying to keep it as consistent as I possibly could to
Yeah.
kind of our original permits, but the easiest thing to do would just be to strike all the conditions afterwards. Because it's, like Dave says, it's atypical from our normal things, but I think that's probably the easiest thing to do.
Okay,
Because to make it more simplified, rather than trying to micro-analyze and figure out kind of how to change each condition, we just get them rid of them,
okay.
so.
That's gonna be the easiest way for the rec department to follow them.
I think it would be, yeah.
Yeah.
All they need to know is that they can only cut the vegetation down to a certain height.
16,
In the
yep,
spots that they marked on the
Yeah.
map.
yep.
Except under one of the administrative conditions, this is where the protection is, that if they're going to make any changes at the vegetative management plan, that item 4A and B will protect us and have the communication open between us, that they want to come in to do an alteration, and we have the opportunity of saying that it's insignificant, that terminology's there.
Okay, can that,
Can we just keep that in?
So then we we take administrative condition B,
Before.
B4, and administrative conditions, and keep those. And then we strike the rest of them.
okay,
Make it as simple as possible.
Sounds good.
sounds reasonable,
Does sound good.
okay.
Make a motion to accept the changes to the
Order conditions?
water conditions for Neponset Reservoir. And what do we call it, NOI bylaw?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So you can't sign this thing because the number's all messed up, so you're gonna have to come in and sign it.
Okay. All right. Somebody want to make a motion to sign the order of conditions as revised?
I make that motion to sign the order of conditions as revised.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed? None? Thank you. Want to touch on Walnut Street real quick, Dave has some questions there. I think, John, you and I have discussed it. We're satisfied with what's going on at the present time.
I mean, I don't know the history on the site. Obviously, that's something to talk about. You know, I think the commission has a better understanding as to kind of what was approved with the initial permit. What happens during construction may not always translate to what was previously approved. We all know that. Sometimes they make modifications and they make changes that may be outside the realm of what was previously approved. That happens most times, and sometimes what I always suggest is it's best to run it through the Conservation Department, and then, for instance, that information can get translated to the Conservation Commission for their opinion. So unfortunately, I did not know much about this project. I met with them last week, and I was informed that they had construction access at one location, and I said, okay, well, how are you going to basically cross that construction access? And they said, oh, we're going to put a culvert in and basically use sheet metal plates to get across with machinery. Well, I find out after, you know, discussions with you, Bob, and hearing it from Dave, that the main access points that they were originally going to use were not the one that they chose to do for temporary access to get in for tree clearing and cutting. So they have, I guess, modified their access. I guess it used to be an old historic access that they used for getting access to the property. At least that's what I was informed. So if that's not the case, then, you know, I leave it up to the commission as to whether they think the applicant needs to come in front of the board, or if they think that it's a minor construction change.
Well, you've talked to them, they're going to restore that and go back to their original, during the construction phase, they'll.
My understanding is that whatever they do during construction, they're gonna have to restore if it's within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission.
Right.
And my conversations with the superintendent was that, you know, after I asked him, I said, hey, that construction access, I've been informed that that wasn't on the plan. He's like, yeah, I acknowledge it's on the plan. Apologies. You know, we will restore the area after we basically create the primary access, and that's gonna basically be the thing that they're gonna do, is they're gonna restore that after the primary access. So it was a miscommunication error. I still think that what they've done for access, they've had a temporary pipe in there, and for instance, it will suffice for allowing for water to get from point A to point B. But they will restore that area to make sure that, for instance, it meets pre-existing conditions, so.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't agree. They're working in the 100-foot buffer zone. That's under our jurisdiction. The swell carrying the water down there is not under our jurisdiction, but they are in the 100-foot buffer zone, and they did not show anything during the plan submitted or during the public hearing that they would want to cross that area, even temporarily. They were told that the only way to access the site is through the proposed main entrance to get onto the site for all their construction activity. And that's what the site plan shows, and that's what's discussed. Now, Bay Colony was the one that established the limit of construction all around, but they're not on board with this company and overseeing that the information and the flagging out there is accurate to the plans. The wetlands bordering the isolated land subject to flooding is going to be fairly close to their project limits. Remember, they moved it even 10 feet in.
Yeah. They moved the road, yeah.
Yeah, they moved it in a little bit, but we don't know if the information that's out there is accurate unless they provided some statement or affidavit from the surveying firm to the contractor.
So the order of conditions that I have for pre-construction had 3 items in it, and I followed those 3 items. So I don't know what else I can do, from my perspective, from an outsider looking in, is that when I look at something and I'm in the pre-construction, usually my pre-construction reports say you need to provide X, Y, and Z, and sometimes more stuff. So when I looked at that, I didn't see anything about access in the order of conditions that said that you need to come in at X, Y, and Z access points. So I apologize for this miscommunication, but I wasn't there to be able to know exactly how this permit went down and what was said at the meetings and what was relayed as what was word of mouth requirements. But typically, pre-construction conditions are outlined specifically in an order. So I just want to make that known that when I went out there and met with them, that's what I had to go off of. So I apologize for that.
No apologies necessary. As far as the, well, conditions probably have changed considerably with the amount of rain that we've had in the last 2 weeks. So conditions out there were not as flagged, I'm sure. That doesn't necessarily mean that the wetlands line has changed. So,
number one, if you go out there, they have put up new flagging around the isolated land subject to flooding. It's brand new. The numbers seem to correspond to what's on the plan. But down here, where they're crossing, it's very obvious what they are doing. When you clear off a site, you're going to go probably for the lowest point to get out on the road at an angle. Because they're probably going to bring in tractor trailers and chip most of this.
yeah.
There's not much valuable logs out there. So they're going to bring a big chipper to be able to take it all out. I'd be surprised if they bring it out by logs. You angle it to get out onto the road in the most dangerous intersection in this town. I think, that's something else that should be overlooked by someone relative to the traffic.
That area that are at is probably the easiest way to get a truck in there. So,
That's not our problem.
well,
They violated the buffer zone that was never intended to be. And they also didn't erect the required 4-foot high orange fencing that's in the order of conditions. All he did is put up a regular silt fence with the socks on the inside.
So what do you propose? You want to put a cease and desist on the art?
I would. We have no guarantees that they will restore it and everything. There's nothing in the order saying that they're allowed to do it. You know, you have these little incidents.
You're our legal,
I presume when they come in for a COC,
yeah.
the commission's going to want to make some requirements as to kind of what needs to be done, right? I mean, the COC needs to match what was proposed conditions.
Correct.
If there is a obstruction within the wetlands that's not taken care of, they don't meet the requirements for the COC, right?
Right.
So for instance, it's in their best interest if they want to basically for this project to move forward following construction, that area is repaired and all the damages that were done be resolved. So either you let this, I guess, happen naturally, or you do the enforcement route, which is probably going to be more obtrusive and more, I guess, of a problem in the future. I don't know. It's up to the commission on how they proceed with this one. But I can see the point with having construction access, because the way that the roads, as I'm looking at this layout, you have to turn left. You can't go right onto 140 based on that turning radius, if you're bringing any sort of heavy machinery.
We're on the,
I'm just
Where
looking
they
at,
look
I'm
at-
looking at the final roads. It looks like they're curved, and they curve more to the left.
That's what they try and do.
Yeah, I know, I see what they're doing, but the roads are curved more to the left, so if you're trying to make that big turning radius, you're gonna be causing more issues for traffic and public safety, so I know it's not Wetland Protection Act kind of stuff or local bylaw stuff when it comes to public safety, but I'd be more concerned about with Walnut Street, because when I drove down that street for the first time, I was a little taken back with
yeah,
how fast people go down that street
and how narrow it is.
and how narrow it is.
It's a cut through,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it splits. Well, it's this way and this way.
So,
Matter of fact, the
I
police
think,
should have a
in my
say on it.
opinion, they put that entry point to suit safety as far as getting trucks in and out in the best location. So, it's, you know, it could be it probably is a violation, but it's a safety issue as well, so.
I mean, if they don't restore it at the end, we can make them do it then before.
Yes.
Aren't they doing improvements to that roadway anyways? Diana?
Yeah, they're doing a signal and they're doing water
Sewer.
and sewer, or just water?
Sewer.
Or sewer.
So aren't they?
Sewer line, I mean, that's a separate, both, they're, I don't know when that one's gonna start soon.
Is that gonna eliminate that,
Yeah, they're putting turning lanes in and all kinds of.
no, that drainage?
Yeah, they're changing that drainage swale.
So that drainage swale is gonna go away, it's gonna go away at some point anyway with the reconfiguration of the roadway, is that what you're telling me?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Yeah, we have a, do we have a separate, we had a separate.
So they're not gonna restore it anyways, they're gonna correct it.
Well, we got an order for the sewer line, but they haven't come up with a plan for the traffic intersection.
I don't think the traffic intersection has anything to do with wetlands.
No, but I mean, they haven't come up with any plan showing what they're gonna be doing. And the traffic lights, but that's in the future.
Well, yes, they have, it's all, that's done, that's out to
I
bid.
think there's
That's-
enough things in place.
It is?
That's all through Mass DOT.
Either they're gonna restore it or it's gonna get fixed at some point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I just have to bring it up,
Okay.
so that, you know, you get walked all over.
So the
That's good. I mean,
The Wetlands Protection Act is being, I guess, revised. They have a lot more information in there. Actually, when Bill was here, we were talking about it as well. The stormwater handbook is being revised too, but they're adding more information as it pertains to climate resiliency. So some of the, I guess the too long didn't read kind of synopsis is that they're going to basically be proposing in the Wetlands Protection Act that applicants, when they come in, need to, are going to be required to show low-impact development design and environmentally sensitive designs with their stormwater components. In addition to that, they're going to have to basically go off the modeling from the NOAA Atlas 14 versus what they had previously. So it's going to be a little bit more restrictive and conservative with a lot of the designs. So hopefully that helps us and alleviates a lot of the flooding issues in the future. But I think that's kind of where they're coming from after the rains that we've had, the past 2 years, so.
When are those projected to come out, do you know,
What's that?
the new regs?
So they are looking for public comments by April 29th.
Okay.
And if anyone has any comments or questions, the document itself is 130 pages, so it's a light read versus the 900 pages of the Stormwater Handbook revision. So, but yeah, I mean, if anyone has any comments, feel free. I haven't really I write a couple of comments for kind of questions and stuff, but I haven't submitted anything yet from my perspective, so.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion? Everybody want to stay?
A motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.